in case you were wondering about monks, the one and only Momo. Ramona Shelburn joins us now on the Sedano and Kap Morning Show. Good morning, Momo.
How's it going?
Hi, Momo.
That's an intro I've never had before.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, you new things happen all the time. So, Momo, for those that are not familiar why you were talking to monks, Victor Wembanyama in the offseason, amongst many things he did this offseason, trained at the Shaolin Monks Temple, okay? Now, I think he's fascinating on a number of different fronts. He's very different. I love this just kind of killer mentality that he has at 22 years old. We don't really have a lot of precedent for that in any sport, let alone basketball. He has a different way to him. There's no question, Ramona. But before we get into the Wemby part of it, tell me, A, how you tracked down the monks, and B, tell me about the monk that you tracked down and his involvement with Victor.
So I love that you asked me the story of the get, right? Because you've done this before, right? The get is the hardest part, right? Once you get them, then you make something out of it, of course. But I was kind of obsessed with the idea of finding the monks ever since I saw the photos of Wemby running through the temple and the forest and stuff last summer, right? Remember, it was just like random Chinese basketball fans were just posting stuff on Twitter and Instagram and stuff of like, look, it's Wemby, and he's shaved his head and he's running through the monastery, and it was like, what is happening? What is going on here? Like, is he at I needed the full story, and I just was like, what monastery is this? Where in China is this? Like, how did he come to be here? What is he doing? Like, all of these things are not easy questions to get from afar, right? And I remember talking to our colleagues at Tencent, which is it's like the Chinese ESPN. And I started talking to them in just beginning of the season, going, guys, how do I find where this is? And so we started just randomly like Googling, Shaolin Monastery, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of like Shaolin monasteries, and eventually we figured out it was the main one in Henan. It's a province in central China, which is like the main Shaolin monastery that's been there for 1,500 years. And then I really just started talking to Wembanyama's people, like his agents, his marketing people, et cetera, saying, we would really like to do something on this. And I feel like we need you to bless this. Like, am I just going to call some monk or just like send an email to like a general,
info at monk.com. Yeah.
Right. Like, like info at Shaolin Monastery, I need them to like say, we're okay with you reaching out, and then in my head, I didn't know that monks have cell phones. Like, we have all these I don't know these things, and so, and you definitely are not going to doorstep them. Like, you're not going to just show up at the monastery and be like, hey, is this where Victor was? Like you gotta get some level of cooperation from Victor's camp. And that was kind of the part that took a lot, because I thought that we probably had no shot of getting Victor to really participate, because he's Wemby, like I could maybe sneak in a question at a press conference. I knew Malika had talked to him about it in December, so I felt like, okay, he's addressed it. We could use her quotes. I can sneak in a question here and there. But so I kind of have been going to San Antonio or going to Spurs games all year and just looking for Victor's agents and just, saying I want to do this, and hey, can we, how did you set this all up? And then they basically told me they had a Chinese agent that they worked with, who was sort of like on the ground person who knew everything in China and set them up at the monastery. I said, well, can you connect me with that person? And that was like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, we'll do that. And then I didn't hear anything for a month, right? Like stuff like time would go by. And then eventually I found, through the magic of AI, literally through the magic of AI, I found a Reddit page where a Chinese journalist had spoken to one of the monks that had been with Victor, and it had been translated into English. And it wasn't like a lot, but it had a name now. So we had a name to work with. And then I went back to Victor's people and I was like, is this the right person? Can we verify this? Can we speak to this monk? And that's what got me the level of cooperation to say, yeah, that's the right person. Here is his website. And once I had his website, then I started sliding into DMs. There was like a Instagram page and a WhatsApp number on the page and an email. And I started dropping names like, hey, I've been talking to his people. This is okay if I call you. And then I literally just called a Chinese cell phone and he answered. Man, right? Like we slid into all the DMs and
this is the master, the Kung Fu master? Yeah.
Like he literally, it was Sunday night. My story's due on Monday. And so I've already come up with I had already had this other lead where his agent had talked to Pelinka and was talking about Kobe. That's how the story was going to read, that if I didn't get the monk. But I was getting so close. I was like, I think I can get him. I'm getting really close now. And I just called this cell phone, shot in the dark at 11 p.m. going like, well, it's 2 p.m. in China. Maybe he'll answer. And he did. And this man on the other line said, ni hao. And I said, ni hao, which is hello in Chinese. It's like I know like a few Chinese words. I know hello, because I went to Beijing in 2008 for the Olympics. So I know how to say hello, which is ni hao. And then I know how to say thank you, which is xie xie. Okay. And I know how to say go China team, which is jia yo, zhang gua bei. That's okay. So I know how to say those phrases. And he spoke really good English.
That's hilarious. So
I was like, here I am with my like, xie ni hao, and he was like, no, hello, I'm Master Yanan, and I was like, whoa, you speak English, okay.
Yes. That's why Victor said he went there.
Wait a second. So wait. Stop. Hold on. So what would
Yeah.
happen if he did not speak English? Were you just gonna like Google Translate this thing?
Smart.
No, I was gonna say I have my colleagues from Tencent who can translate for us. Can we schedule a call?
Also smart.
Okay.
Also smart.
So I had set this part up, but I did not have that set up at 11 o'clock at night. I had been told that the guy spoke decent English. So I had, what does that mean? You never know what that means. That means like you might be able to understand me a little bit, you know. But I knew that if I could at least make contact, and this is, I mean, I'm running out of time. My story's due, right? So I just had to shot in the dark do this, and maybe I could set this call up. So he spoke to me for about 10 minutes that night, and I said, can we schedule a call? He said, I would feel better with the translator. And I said, okay. And so I set up this call with my colleagues from Tencent for 5 p.m. on Monday, which was exactly the start time of the Spurs game 1. And we were going to do it on WhatsApp, but then we realized that there's like VPN issues in China. I don't know if you've ever been to China, but they kind of block the WhatsApp calls for a longer period of time. So I had to download WeChat. Do you know what that is?
No.
Yeah, that's their version of it.
Yeah, it's the Chinese version of WhatsApp. And in order to do it, to be like a user on WeChat, I had to get verified. And I was like, I don't know how to get verified on WeChat. Like, somebody had to, it's like an existing user has to verify you, or you have to enter your credit card, which seems like a very bad idea to me, but I just did it.
Should have used your corporate
you can
card.
always just call the credit card company. All right, so you get him on the phone.
Yeah.
What did you guys talk about about Victor?
We talked for an hour and a half, George. After all of this, the guy was super chatty. We had these translators, but half the time he just answered in English. I mean, and his English is like fairly good. He had lived in the States for 7 years, so it wasn't like perfect. Like there were definitely times where he would like struggle with a phrase, and I'm like, if you want to answer in Mandarin, go ahead. And then they would talk for like 3 minutes at a time amongst themselves, and I was like, oh, I'm sure this is gold. I don't know what you're saying, and then my guys would translate it back to me, but it was of course like not 3 minutes of translation. But what I found to be really interesting was the whole thing that was the most interesting was just how much Victor embraced being there and how little he fought. I mean, he sat there cross-legged for 90-minute silent meditations in the dark. This guy's 7'4". He was totally uncomfortable. Like that was excruciating for him with his legs, right? So can you imagine 7'4" with your legs like that, cross-legged? And he's like, and you can't move. Like, you can't, like, you have to be silent. And he just did it. And then these stories he would tell me of, like, Victor wanted to work on his awareness. So I told him we should go hike up the mountain in the dark, so you have to rely on your senses. And the two Spurs staffers that were with him were like, I don't think this is a good idea to turn off the lights.
Right, he's going to get hurt. Dude's going to get hurt.
Yeah, like, it's really steep and it's really dangerous. And Victor was like, no, it's okay. Because they had been on this path during the day, and I guess there's a railing on the side of the mountain, so you probably wouldn't fall up the cliff, but if you fell down those stairs, you would definitely get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm looking at the staircase. I'm like, this is very dangerous. But he just did it. And I think when I watch him, like, I mean, the way he talks, like, you can't write these lines. I mean, he was like, I could just tell in his eyes, like, if you're going to fight, you have to have courage. And so I'm teaching him to have courage. And you are not a cat, you are a tiger. Like, I was like, God, you could just write this into a movie, like the way they talk. It's just amazing. And I think Victor just really embraced it. Like, he just really got into the mental discipline of it. And I mean, could you do that? Could you go to a monastery for 2 weeks and, like, eat vegetarian food and most?
But Momo, that's an interesting point. Momo, that's a really interesting point that it was a question that I was going to ask, but then you answered it in the piece.
Yeah.
When look, I can understand the mental side of it. I can understand the physical side of it. But from a nutrition standpoint, given that the monks are all vegetarians, I'm thinking to myself, this guy's 7'4", he's 22 years old. This body desperately is going to need protein. And you tell the story about how he would leave daily because you couldn't eat any meat at the monastery. Just tell us a little bit about that, because that to me was fascinating. And what I really wanted to know was, how much was he eating?
Yeah, so they ate so most of the meals are like boiled vegetables, bean buns, like some rice porridge, soup. Like, this is like very Spartan, kind of food. Here's this monastic food, like, right? The living, I love when he told me, I go, how did you fit him into these beds? And they were like, oh, we took 3 beds and put them together. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh my God. And he slept like that. But I think it was 2 or 3 times a day, they would take this big black Sprinter van, the one that you kind of, celebrities travel around in. They would drive it into the monastery. He would get in and drive outside the monastery. Well, it's like a ways away, like a mile or 2 away. You have to really be respectful of this. And so they would bring him protein, like, chicken or fish or something from a local restaurant. He would eat it in the car, and then you really had to dispose of the food before you brought, like you can't even bring the carton back in. Like, there cannot be any residue of, like, protein in the car even. So he had to, like, throw it away and then drive back in. So he had to, like, sit, and you definitely can't, like, get out in the middle of the city and eat. Like, he's not going to, he's going to be recognized and mobbed by a crowd of, Chinese. But he just sat in the car and ate it and then threw it away and then came back in several times, a couple of times a day, just to get the protein intake that he needed.
Amazing that they were that flexible enough for him. But again, I guess for me, the big takeaway from this piece that you put together, Ramona, was, wow, this is a 21-year-old child. Now he's 22.
Totally.
But most 21-year-old kids who are this talented and already have this much money and fame, they're eating Skittles and Snicker bars and Big Macs, and they're going, hey, I'm getting by on talent. This guy has the height and the length and the talent, and yet he's willing to go not 110 miles an hour. This guy's doing 200 miles an hour to be that much better than everybody around him. That, to me, was the most impressive part about it all.
Totally. Well, okay, so it reminded me a lot of Kobe. And I remember something Derek Fisher said about Kobe once. Derek said, if I don't know what it's like to be born with the ability to be the best basketball player ever. Like, I wasn't born with that natural ability or that feeling, okay? But he was, when he was referring to Kobe, but I think we can apply this to Victor as well. But if you are born with the ability to be, like, the best basketball player ever, that is you want to self-actualize. You want to become that. Like, you have to do everything you can to try to reach that goal. Like, you have to try. And I think there's a lot of like I've studied a little bit I went down a lot of rabbit holes when I was writing this, right? I was like watching videos of what it's like to train with the monks and, running up these stairs and mountains and stuff. But a lot of what Kung Fu is and a lot of what you learn about is, and this is something that Master Yanan said to me. He said, the meditation is where you build your inner strength. That's what you take in, and the Kung Fu is what you put out, right? It's like yin and yang. It's the inner and then what comes out into the world. But it's really about self-actualization. It's really about enlightenment, right? Reaching your highest being as a person. And I think that he has that at this age of 21, 22. Like, he's born and he's legitimately 7'5". Okay, I know he's listed at 7'4", but I think he's 7'5". He might even grow more. He has his athleticism. He has the mental strength. He legitimately could be the best basketball player to ever live, like ever. Go ahead, Jordan, Will, anybody, LeBron. This guy can be better than all of them. And so I think there's this. I think he's recognized that, and he's going to do everything he can to become that. And we are. I mean, literally, what's the LeBron billboard? We are all witnesses. Like that's what we are now.
Ramona, he embraces it in a way that I've never seen at that age. Like, even LeBron at 22, I think, had these expectations, and we understood that. And at 22, he'd already had the series where he'd already been to the finals and beat Detroit. But I think this guy is taking it to a different level even than LeBron did, which is incredible to see. And I just think that he may be at 22. While I think LeBron was really impressive at 22, I think this kid may be even more thoughtful than LeBron was at 22. On top of the skill stuff that he's applying himself to. Yeah, look, he's unique in every which way. And if you're the NBA, for many years, Ramona, I'm sure you remember the European basketball player, particularly in the early 2000s, was considered soft, right? Is that an accurate way to depict that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean,
look,
Kevin Garnett,
right? What was,
right? Kevin Garnett punking a lot of different guys, Marco Jaric and Pau Gasol in the finals, right? Like, and Pau turned that narrative around. I think that started there. Dirk certainly turned that narrative around. But I do think that Victor embodies it in a completely different way. Like, he looks up to those guys, all those European players, but he does things that I don't think I've ever seen guys do, and I think he's also very aware of whatever weaknesses. I'm using that not in a literal sense, but more in an existential sense. Like, he does, his game is not perfect, right? His body is not yet perfect, and the stuff I see him do just before a game, like the workout he does before a game, I would advise people, if you ever go watch one of his games, which you should go anyway, just because you're going to see something you've never seen. But go there early if you can and watch him warm up. And every single move, and I would say probably after the Monks, I think this is more pronounced, every single move is deliberate. Like, there is a reason behind every single thing he does on the floor, whether it's this praying mantis thing he does where he's like balancing himself on one leg and hopping to the other. He does this thing with Bismack Biyombo where they're literally wrestling practically on the floor because of the level of physicality he's going to see. It really is fascinating just to watch him pregame, let alone in-game. And all this is stuff he's learned from this piece that you've written about.
So that's what I thought that when I went into this, that's what I thought I was going to write about, which is that he understands his body. Like, Brian Windhorst did a really good story with him back in when he first came to the draft, right? And they wrote about how he was really skinny and Bergman, I don't know if you're there, but remember Bergman has his famous quote, I don't know if you can. Sorry, Greg. I'm sorry.
Brought it back for you, Bergie.
It just never goes away.
Oh my God. We bust his butt on this all the time, and he claims he never actually said it. But I think you might have been there. I was there. Mason was there.
Listen,
Bergman, you said it.
It's an unfair thing to say. Look, if you look at his body type, that's what all of us were wondering. Like, same thing with Chet Holmgren, who then missed his rookie season with a foot injury.
Yep.
Like, it was totally not an unfair thing to say. Greg, you are exonerated for it. However, I
thank you, Momo.
Okay.
But
the reason why Victor is so incredible is that he understands his body, and he understands, like, if for a body type his size, you can't just go lift weights. You can't just, how everybody was like, that dude needs to put on 50 pounds of muscle. And he's like, no, that's not what I need. I need to get stronger, but not bulk up. Like, if I bulk up, I won't be able to move the way I will the way I do. I will not be able to play the way I do. I will increase my injury risk because I won't be as flexible. I mean, have you seen him do the splits? Have you seen these videos where he's
saw
doing,
those pictures,
forwards? Oh my God! I mean, what Master Yanan told me. He said, I watched one of those training videos and I was very impressed. But then he was like, that we were going to make him do like more of that. Like, he kind of laughed about it. Like, those videos where the monks are climbing the stairs like on all fours, they going up and down the staircases on their hands and and legs. They like made Victor do that. I was like, and I said to Master Yanan, I go, can you do that? He goes, oh yeah, that's easy. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, we're like climbing mountains and going up and down mountains on our hands. Okay. But like he knows, like, how do you get stronger without bulking up? You learn to do Kung Fu. Like, you learn to generate force the way that Kung Fu guys generate force. That's how you do
plyometrics,
it.
Right, is what it's called, I believe, where you use your own body weight against itself. Right.
And you take in look, if we're speaking in the terms that they would use, you take in the chi, which is energy. You center yourself with whether it's meditation or focus or however you're going to just describe the mental, the inner strength that you're going to build.
Thank you, Pepper.
You got to focus. That's right. Right.
Focus.
You got to focus.
It honestly, it kind of threw me for a second, and then I realized what a great drop it was. Okay, so and then you learn how to generate power from inside and put it out in the without just building strong muscles with weights. Like, this is a brilliant training. It was a brilliant move, and it reminded me, Buna Injai, who's his agent, he said he comes from a generation that looked up to Bruce Lee. You remember Bruce Lee and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Look at Kareem's body type.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that, there's a real comp there. I mean, like, this is like Kareem is long and gangly, and I mean, he was in Bruce Lee movies.
Right.
I mean, like, this is really smart in the way that they've approached this and the way Victor approached this. And I think I am not at liberty to say what he's doing next summer, but I've heard some things. I think what he does this summer is going to be the same kind of thing, but in a different way. It'll be really interesting if he follows through on it, because I think he knows exactly what he needs. Right? Like, I would say, I said this to my editor when I was writing. I go, I was there when he won Defensive Player of the Year, and he was telling all of us that earlier in his career, his coaches said to him that he's not actually very good on defense. And I find that hard to believe, obviously, because he's really good on defense. But he was mostly just tall, and he would intimidate shots, but he didn't understand how to play defense the way he does now, right? Like the positioning and the angles that you take, just the overall way he plays defensively. And I thought I was like, what's amazing about Victor is that he takes the notes. Like, how many times does like Bergman tell you something about your show? Like, hey, I want you guys to be more this or more that.
Yeah,
like,
we don't really listen to Bergman, though.
Well, but I mean, we go to the Bergman School. The Bergman School of Content.
You don't listen to me either. Don't worry.
Like, do you guys take the note? Do you listen to the feedback and do something with it?
Sure.
Like, Victor takes the note.
Usually Sedano calls me screaming, saying F you to it, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I know how I feel when I have editors, I try to take the note. Sometimes I think they're, totally off base or whatever, but I try to at least take it nicely, I think this guy, I think he listens. He's like coachable. He's like the greatest player out there right now, and he's still coachable.
And he's a kid. He's a child.
And he's
Momo,
a kid.
He's a baby.
The great Ramona Shelburn. Now, I made this joke on Mason and Ireland on Tuesday. Do you think the monks were prepared for the amount of volume that a conversation with Momo goes? Were they overwhelmed?
No, maybe he was a little, but I deliberately slowed myself down because I knew I was speaking to somebody who was not English first language, right?
Right.
So I slowed down, but I think I got so excited at one point that I didn't.
Oh, beautiful.
He was pretty chatty. He invited me to come. He said, "You want to come to Shanghai?" He's in Shanghai now. Or you want to come to the monastery? I'd love to show you around. I was thinking to myself, like, I should do that this summer and come back like
2 weeks.
Like
dude, let me tell you something. If I were in my 20s again, I would. If I was 20 years younger, okay, I would totally want to do what Victor did. Like
I would do it now.
20 years ago,
I would do it now.
No way.
Yes, sir.
I don't
Yes,
think
sir.
I don't think my body would hold up.
Oh, I would
You know
take
what
the
I'm saying?
challenge.
Like,
I would definitely take the challenge. As a matter of fact, Momo, the only thing in this whole story that I was like, well, that's not
but
really
this
that
is the
impressive.
difference.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is the difference between you and me. You also thought you could do 50 push-ups one time at a golf event, and you did like 43 and collapsed.
Yes,
you think
and
you're
almost
gonna
died.
climb up? You think you're gonna
Cappy, you're a bum.
climb
No,
this
I think I could
mountain
do it.
like Victor did?
I think I could do it. But the only thing is this. Last thing for me, Momo.
Real quick, Cappy, real quick.
All right. The only thing that wasn't as impressive was this whole thing about him doing this walk in like 4 hours versus a normal person does it in 7 hours. Yeah, that's because Victor takes one step and it takes me 25 steps to catch up.
Totally. I was like, okay, look, I looked at the mountain that he climbed up. I watched like YouTube. I'll send you guys videos of it if you want to see it, okay? And I was like, so he dribbled up the stairs, and the guy was like, yes. Sometimes if there were other people on the stairs, he would stop to let them go by. And I was like, oh, my God, like this guy. But then he goes, I go, how does he do it so fast? And I go, oh, well, he could probably take like 3 stairs, you know?
Right.
The great Ramona Shelburn. Momo, we love you. Have a
Wait,
great
real
day.
quick, Chris. Real quick, before we go. Is Carlo doing the YouTube